First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Mark, the 6th chapter. And he went out from thence and came into his own country, and his disciples followed him, or follow him. And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, From whence hath this man these things? And what wisdom is this which is given unto him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joses, and of Judah and Simon? And Judah being Jude, and James being James, right? And are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him, right? Because they're like, we know his family, we know his parents, we know his brethren, we know his sisters, and how all of a sudden he's teaching out here like he's some new authority. Like what? But Yahushua said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house. See? So, everywhere else, right? If you were to go everywhere and they didn't know you, they would reverence you, right? Like Yahushua is saying here. Now, an example is also people that you knew before coming into the truth versus people that you met after coming into this knowledge, right? The way you are after being in this knowledge, when you meet people with the way you are now, this is how they know you. But those that knew you before, they always still have that part about them, which is like, oh, you, in their minds, you changed, right? Now you're acting like you're this and this and that, because they knew how you were before. And so, like I mentioned before in one of the previous chapters, that familiarity blocks oftentimes a lot of people from looking more at the spiritual. And that's why Yahushua made that statement. And he could not do there do mighty work, save that he laid his hands on a few sick folk and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief. And he went round about the villages teaching. And he called unto him the 12, and began to send them forth by 2 and 2, and gave them power over unclean spirits, and commanded them that they should take nothing for their journey, save a staff only, no scrip, no bread, no money in their purse, right? And because they would be taken care of, they didn't have to worry about those. The Lord would provide. But be shod with sandals, and not put on 2 coats, that is taking a change of raiment. And he said unto them, In what place soever ye enter into an house, there abide till ye depart from that place. So when you go and you're received, whatever city you go into and you're received, stay in that house, that same house you're received, until you leave that place. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear you, when ye depart thence, shake off the dust under your feet for a testimony against them. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. Meaning that city that refuses to accept you or accept his word, just cast the dust off your feet, right? Symbolize that, you know what? They refuse to accept the word. And the Lord is saying in the time of judgment, what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah would be, Sodom and Gomorrah would be considered well off compared to that city. And they went out and preached that men should repent. And they cast out many devils, and anointed with oil many that were sick, and healed them. And King Herod heard of him, for his name was spread abroad. And he said that John the Baptist was risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do shew forth themselves in him. So he thought that Yahushua was John the Baptist who had, come back from the dead. Remember, John the Baptist was beheaded at the request of Herodias' daughter. And Herodias was the wife of Herod's brother. Okay, and then he married her. And then he got rebuked by John, and she got mad. And so one thing led to another. John was thrown in prison at the request of Herodias' daughter. They beheaded John. So he's saying here, oh, this is John rising from the dead again to do all these things. Others said that it is Elias, and others said that it is a prophet, or as one of the prophets. But when Herod heard thereof, he said, it is John, whom I beheaded. He is risen from the dead. For Herod himself sent forth and laid hold upon John, and bound him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife, for he had married her. For John had said unto Herod, it is not lawful for thee to have thy brother's wife. Therefore Herodias had a quarrel against him, and would have killed him, but she could not. Damn, this bitch was evil. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just man, and an holy, and observed him. And when he heard him, he did many things, and when he heard him, he did many things, and heard him gladly. And when a convenient day was come, that Herod on his birthday made a supper to his lords, high captains, and chief estates of Galilee. And when the daughter of the said Herodias came in and danced, and pleased Herod, and them that sat with him, the king said unto the damsel, ask of me whatsoever thou wilt, and I will give it thee. And he sware unto her, whatsoever thou shalt ask of me, I will give it thee, unto the half of my kingdom. So anything you ask, up until the half, like even as much as half of my kingdom, I'll give you. And just as a way of saying, like a figure of speech to say whatever you want. And she went forth, and remember, he sware unto her, right? And she went forth and said unto her mother, what shall I ask? And she said, the head of John the Baptist, because her mother was a demon who was mad at John because he rebuked their relationship. And she came in straightway with haste unto the king, and asked, saying, I will that thou give me by and by in a charger the head of John the Baptist. And the king, when at that point, the music probably stopped. You know, people's faces got concerned. They looking around. Oh shit, hold on. They sitting up in their chair, and they looking at Herod like, yo, you hear this right here? But he had already, that's gonna say, and the king was exceeding sorry, yet for his oath's sake, and for their sakes which sat with him, he would not reject her. And immediately the king sent an executioner and commanded his head be brought, and he went and beheaded him in prison. And the Most High set that up. He had that happen, you know, for a reason, right? Because John the Baptist had completed his job, his role, right, to come and usher in Yahushua, and now he had to sort of just, you know, be out the picture now. Where we at? Verse 28, and brought his head in a charger, and gave it to the damsel, and the damsel gave it to her mother. And when his disciples heard of it, they came and took up his corpse, and laid it in a tomb. And the apostles gathered themselves together unto Yahushua, and told him all things, both that they had done, and what they had taught. And he said unto them, come ye yourselves apart into a desert place, and rest a while. For there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. So because it was so many people constantly there, that they didn't even have a second to sit down or to eat. And they departed into a desert, that's an isolated place, by ship privately. And the people saw them departing, and many knew him, and ran afoot thither out of all cities, and outwent them, and came together unto him. They said, you ain't getting away that easy. And Yahushua, when he came out, saw much people, and was moved with compassion toward them, because they were as sheep, not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things, right? Because he saw the state that they were in. And he just, he's like, damn, like they're lost. Now when the day was now far spent, as in it was getting late, his disciples came unto him and said, this is a desert place, and now the time is far past. Send them away, that they may go into the country round about, and into the villages, and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. So is he saying, the disciples are saying, well, it's getting late. There's nothing here to eat. So dismiss them so they can go in and get some food. And he answered and said unto them, give ye them to eat. And they said unto him, shall we go and buy 200 penny worth of bread and give them to eat? There's a lot of people here, Lord. He saith unto them, how many loaves have ye? And go and see. And when they knew, they said, 5, and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make all sit down by companies upon the green grass. So when you see how it says in verse 35, this is a desert place. That desert place doesn't mean it was an actual desert, right? As you just mentioned, green grass. What it means is it was more isolated. And they sat down in ranks by hundreds and fifties. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven and blessed and brake the loaves and gave them to his disciples and set before them the 2 fishes divided, and the 2 fishes he divided among them all. And, he basically used some form of spiritual power to, whether he was cloning the fish or what, but they were able to feed all of them and still have more left. And they did all eat and were filled. And they and they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments and of the fishes. That's the leftover. And they that did eat of the loaves were about 5,000 men. And straightway he constrained his disciples to get into the ship and to go to the other side before onto Bethsaida, while he sent the people away. So he's like, you take the lead and go over there. I'm going to dismiss the people. And when he had sent them away, he departed into a mountain to pray. And when even was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. And he saw them toiling and in rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. And about the 4th watch of the night, he cometh unto them, walking upon the sea, and would have passed by them. So they're basically trying to get the ship under control. They're rowing and trying to get it to go in one direction. And we're talking about in the AMs, the wee hours of the night, you just have Yahushua walking on the water coming to them. So he was getting closer and closer. And when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, because it's dark, it's late. And now you just see somebody walking on the water. You're like, yo, and cried out. For they all saw him and were troubled. And immediately he talked with them and saith unto them, be of good cheer, it is I. Be not afraid. So you good. Calm down. Calm down. Well, who's crying back there? And he went up onto them into the ship, and the wind ceased, and they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered. So when he got into the ship, now here it doesn't mention the part with Peter, right, walking on the water. But we, in the I think it's in the book of, I think both Luke and Matthew mention it. But in any case, Yahushua gets in the ship, and as it says, they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure and wondered. For they considered not the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. So, as it says here, they were basically in shock, right? Like not in like, medical shock or anything, but it was just like, beyond comprehension that he just walked on water like that. And when they had passed over, they came into the land of Gennesaret and drew to the shore. And let's see this here. Oh, right. In what verse was that? Right, the verse right up above, it mentioned here their heart was hardened. So reading that in the NLT, it says, for they still didn't understand the significance of the miracle of the loaves. Their their hearts were too hard to take it in. So it hadn't sunk in yet. Verse 54 or 53 again. And when they had passed over, they came into the land of Gennesaret and drew to the shore. And when they were come out of the ship, straightway they knew him, and ran, which is the people, and ran through through that whole region round about and began. So the second Yahushua reached the shore, they said, it's him, he's here. Go get all the sick or anybody that needs healing. You better come here quick. Round about and began to carry about in beds those that were sick where they heard he was. So wherever they saw he's over there at the shores of Gennesaret, the next thing you know, everybody is ready. And whithersoever he entered into villages or cities or country, they laid the sick in the streets and besought him that he might touch, that they might touch, if it were but the border of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole, so they were healed. And that brings us to the end of the book of Mark, the 6th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachah Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.